Some of the best recipes were born out of hard times, like the Quebecois dish called Pouding Chômeur. Now, this dish came about during the Great Depression. Chômeur refers to an unemployed person. And the original recipes featured stale bread, milk, brown sugar. But the more decadent versions that you'll find today are creamy, mapley, and feature a butter-rich cake. Now, it's a pudding cake, so we're going to get some magic along the way. And the magic man is here to show us how it's done. Hi, Keith.
Hey, this is a really fun dessert to make. And the way you make it is you start with a batter in a cake pan, and then you pour maple syrup and cream over that. And when you bake it, if you get the formula just right, those ingredients invert, and you have a yellow cake on top of a molten pool of maple syrup. It's absolutely delicious.
Unbelievable.
But you have to get the formula right. That's the important thing. So I'm going to start with our maple and cream mixture. I have 1 cup of dark maple syrup here. You can use any type of maple syrup here, but dark is better because it's going to contrast against the yellow cake, and it has a tendency to have more flavor too. And 1 cup of heavy cream. Now, the ratio of 1 cup of cream to 1 cup of maple syrup is pretty important here. We want to make sure that it's viscous enough to kind of stay on top at the beginning, but also fall underneath the cake when it bakes.
Okay.
So I also have a 1/2 teaspoon of table salt. This is going to make sure that we kind of temper a little bit of that sweetness.
Yeah, there was a lot of sweetness that just went into that pot.
So I'm just going to turn this on medium heat. We're just going to let this come up to a simmer. And the reason why we want to warm it up is we want to make sure that the maple and cream are mixed together well, but also if it's a little looser, it will be easier to pour on top of our cake batter.
Okay.
That will take 5 minutes. This has come up to a simmer, and we're just going to shut this off. And I'm going to take a whisk. Okay, so that's perfect. And I'm just going to take this and pour it into a 2-cup liquid measure. And this is only to facilitate pouring it over the batter later on.
Gotcha.
Okay. So a lot of recipes we found started with a batter that was creamed. So you get a really nice tender crumb, but it's also quite fine. Since this is a rustic dish, we decided to forego the creaming and use a muffin method or a quick bread method of just kind of folding wet into dry ingredients.
Great, so no electric mixer, no creaming butter and sugar together.
No, a lot simpler. So I have 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour in here. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar. Not a lot of sugar. We don't need that much since we have a cup of maple syrup there. We don't need a lot of sugar in the cake. 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. That's going to provide some lift. And a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to whisk this together. Okay, so that's our dry ingredients. Now for the wet ingredients, I have 2/3 cup of milk. We don't want anything too rich here. We have cream over there, so we don't need that much fat here. So I have 2 eggs here, and just a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. That will play really well with that maple syrup. A lot of recipes we found use just 1 egg, and it actually works really well. But we actually found by using 2 eggs, we get a little bit more structure on that cake. And actually, when it bakes up above the maple syrup, it's a little bit more open, it's a little bit more airy. Now we can just go into our dry ingredients. Simple as this.
Easy, easy. Loving it.
I'm just going to mix this together until it's just smooth. We don't want to over mix this, but we do want to get it well incorporated. Okay, 1 final ingredient, and that is melted butter. So I have 6 tablespoons of melted butter here. Again, we changed the ratios of a lot of the recipes that we found. It works well with 4, and you get a nice, tender, rich cake, but we're actually going to use 6 tablespoons. And those 2 additional tablespoons of butter are going to waterproof our cake a little bit, so it doesn't mix with the maple cream mixture, and we have a nice, distinct layers.
Great. You do not have to sell me on more butter or more eggs, ever.
So I'm just going to whisk this all together until it's smooth.
Easy.
Okay, so our batter is nice and smooth. It's okay if we have a couple lumps in there. It's not a big deal.
That was easy.
Okay, so I'm just going to transfer this over to an 8-inch baking dish. We're not going to spray this or anything like that. Found that spraying, it was going to inhibit some of the inversion of the layers, so we just want to pour this in. And we like glass because it's going to insulate the cake a little bit more. We're going to serve this warm, so we want to keep it warm. And if you can use metal, it's fine, but it will cool off quicker.
Plus, it's a pudding cake. You want to see what's going on.
Exactly. And you can see that this batter is fairly thick.
Right.
It's leveling out, but I'm just going to help it a little bit. And we want this to be fairly thick right now because we want the maple cream to stay on top of the cake when we pour it in here. So having a little bit of a thicker batter is exactly what we want. And now it's time to pour the maple cream over the top. Now, this is someplace you want to have some patience. You don't want to just dump all that on top and then subvert all the maple syrup underneath that cake.
Okay.
So we're going to do this really slow. So you can pour it down the edge of the cake pan and into the corner and let it kind of flow over the top. Another thing I like to use is the back of a spoon, like the back of a serving spoon, and then you can pour that over it, and it just makes it a little bit more diffuse, and you don't pour it right down onto the cake.
Expertly done. Look at that flood. Well, that's why you have that really thick cake batter, because if it was thinner, even with all this careful patience, it would still just all blend together.
That's right. Takes a while, doesn't it?
I've been to more exciting magic shows, that's for sure.
Perfect.
Lovely.
You can see our perfect layers right there. Fingers crossed, this will invert in the oven.
I know it will.
So I'm going to bake this in a 375-degree oven and have the rack about 6 inches from the broiler, or the top of the oven. And the idea is that we want heat to reflect off the top onto the top of the cake as it comes up through that maple syrup. And that heat will brown the top of the cake nicely. So I'm going to bake this 6 inches from the broiler for 30 to 35 minutes in a 375-degree oven.
Okay. Are you ready to take your cooking to the next level? Introducing the complete America's Test Kitchen TV show cookbook, featuring every recipe from every episode of America's Test Kitchen. That's thousands of recipes. That texture is unbelievable. Reviews
Gadgets you didn't know you needed.
and tips.
Yes, there's some terrible choices, but there are also some amazing choices.
We've spilled all of our secrets and included our insider notes alongside each recipe. Plus, there's a handy shopping guide so you know exactly what to grab when you're at the store. And of course, it makes an excellent gift. Get your copy today at americastestkitchen.com. Pudding chômeur is not only a real treat to eat, but it's also a very cool baking trick. Here's how it works. We add 2 components to the pan separately: the cake batter, which contains milk, flour, baking powder, and eggs, and a sauce made of cream and maple syrup. The fat and sugar in the sauce are both less dense than water in the batter, so the sauce floats on top of the batter. But when the heat activates the baking powder, it leavens the batter, which expands and sets into a porous, fluffy cake. That cake is now much less dense, so it floats to the top of the liquid sauce. And that's the magic of pudding chômeur and all pudding cakes.
Ooh, beautiful.
Thanks. Oh, the cake, yes.
You can see that heat has reflected off the top and browned the cake nicely, bubbling around the edges. Okay, so we're just going to take a toothpick and test this before we say it's completely done. You don't want to go all the way down to the cake because then you'll pick up the maple syrup, so you just really want to get that cake batter. So no crumbs, so that means it's perfectly cooked. Now we just want to let this cool for 10 minutes before we scoop it out and eat. So we've given this 10 minutes to cool. Now it's time to eat. Now, I also want to say you don't want to let this cool for too long, because what will happen is that maple cream will start to absorb into the bottom of the cake and you won't have those nice layers. So 10 minutes is the max.
All right, you don't have to tell me.
Maybe 11.
Maybe 11, all right. You're pushing it, Magic Man.
Nice healthy portion here. And we want to invert it over.
Oh.
And then just get in there.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, that's your portion. Smells like heaven.
Like what breakfast in paradise smells like.
So I have one last addition. I'm gonna spoon some creme fraiche over this. Creme fraiche adds a little bit of richness, not like we need it, but it also adds a little bit of tang, and it will kind of temper that sweetness.
Before I gotta say, I love desserts that look like this. In general, the desserts that look comfortable, I'm going to say, are the best ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
That's heavenly.
The absolute best portion of this are the edges where it's a little crisp.
Oh, yeah.
And that maple is browned. It's perfect.
The cake itself is so tender. It's almost like a really gorgeous pancake, that fluffy interior. super light and fluffy. You'd never think that the cake like this would get that fluffy underneath that beautiful flood of maple cream.
It is a great cake, isn't it?
Oh, it's a gorgeous cake and very magical.
Yeah, I'm going to make that whole plate disappear pretty soon.
Well, not this whole plate. You're going to want to get your own plate to make this beautiful pudding chômeur at home. Use the right amount of butter and eggs to make a thick cake batter. Pour an equal amount of cream and maple syrup all over the batter, and then invert the cake when serving to showcase that saucy top. From America's Test Kitchen, the decadent but so simple to make pudding chômeur. And you can get this recipe and all the recipes from this season, along with product reviews and select episodes. And those are all on our website, americastestkitchen.com/TV. Sinister.
Sinister. That's a good description for it.
Yes. No smoke and mirrors.
We hope you enjoyed this video as much as we enjoyed making it.
Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.
And if you're ready to take your cooking to the next level, head over to americastestkitchen.com and get a free all-access trial membership.
While you're there, you can sign up for our free email newsletters and download our app.
With unlimited access to over 14,000 of our Test Kitchen recipes and 8,000 product reviews, you'll have everything you need to cook and learn.
So I ask, what are you waiting for?
Let's make something great together.